This is Scott Carson, founder and CEO of Powered by MRP, and another episode of MedTech Marketplace. Today we're super excited to have Dr. Shah, Dr. Maxfield, and given that
I'm numbed up. We're going to be using one of the devices here. I'm excited about it though.
That's yes, you're going to get microneedling RF.
Correct.
For dermatology is we're here today, kind of visiting with one of our new customers, Dr. Audubon, Dr. Shah, and just talking about what's happening in the industry. Clearly, you guys are gigantic, amazing influencers in the industry, reaching out to patients all over the world and clinicians. And tell me about how you guys got connected, how you guys know each other.
Yeah, so we met in medical school, actually. So we were rotating together, and it was so funny. We came from different worlds, completely different worlds. He grew up in Colorado, I grew up in New York. But we both had this incredible passion for like new things, like new knowledge, like getting good information out there. And so the first time we actually connected to work together on anything was a research project. We found a really cool research case that we saw, and we were so excited about it, and we were like the only ones in the entire hospital excited about this. We're like, we have to publish this is so important. And just like this sort of vigor for like science and education like really was like our starting point, and then we split. You know, he went a separate way, I went my separate way. I ended up in radiology, he ended up in internal medicine. But we stayed in touch, like, you know, just the passion for science and medicine, and he ended up tutoring students, I ended up tutoring students sort of in these parallel worlds. He ended up switching from internal medicine into derm, and then I ended up switching I ended up wanting to switch from radiology into derm. And I reached out to him because he had already switched, and I said, hey, like, what do you think about the switch? Are you happy with the switch? And he said, yeah, I'm super happy. I love the program I'm at. Why don't you apply?
Yeah, and it's even, there's so much backstory to this even still, because yeah, I was always on track for derm initially, so I was headed toward dermatology. But I think because of the type of people we are, we just have this hunger and thirst for information and knowledge and education and teaching. And so I was one of the people who just loved every specialty. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of things were going on, but one of the end point was I walked out of dermatology, went into general medicine, came back. Dr. Shah again had this like thirst for life and information, and that's one of the first things we just connected on. Mm-hmm. It's a rare quality even on our internal medicine rotations to just be excited about everything that comes across your plate.
We were overly excited, man. We were the overly eager students, not in like a weird way, but we were a little overly eager.
Yeah, but then like you said, we just separately worked into medical education spaces. We always tried to be teaching and learning, and then we connected back together into this realm of dermatology. And even then we were looking at like, how do we continue our roles in medical education, how do we grow this? And then the social media aspect of it kind of came through Dr. Shah. This is a space he entered first, and then I watched him kind of embrace that side, this new, for me it seemed like a completely new side of life and medicine. And then he, with a lot of patience, walked me very gently into it, and then we've kind of grown together in the YouTube space.
So basically, that's his rough way of saying I forced him to do social media. So we ended up at the same program for training. He was a year ahead of me, I was a year behind him, and I stumbled into TikTok by accident because I started creating content and it started going viral. And then I took like a 360 view of the whole space, and I said, why do people like this content so much? And I realized there's nothing out there for the public from derms, right? Mm-hmm. And so I said, we have to go on YouTube. Like, there's nobody on YouTube doing this the way that I think the consumer wants it. And he's like, no, I'm like a private person, you know, I want to focus more on research. You know, he's really big on that. And I said,
and here you are with numbing cream.
Yeah.
But here we are today.
And I said, we have to do this together. So if you look at our first YouTube videos, we used to, after clinic and residency, we would go upstairs in the office on the couches upstairs that our old couches our program director had on a plain wall, terrible video quality, and I would say we had to sit down and shoot content educating people on the skin. And we did it, and then now he loves it. But at first we had to get, but like we reached so many people with information that they would never have access to. So I think now, like, we realize this. I started realizing when people started coming to me in person and saying, like, you really helped me. And so I think to me that's like the most important thing now is like the people really do benefit from what we're doing on social media.
There's no question that, and I don't think I think you guys are aware of it, but I don't think you really understand how impactful it is, and I'll use this as an example. We had not met till today, and for the first time, but I recognized you. When I realized I recognized you, it's because you'd come up on my feed, and I had watched several things that you've done, and those indirect relationships and that information was impactful for me. Some of it I probably retained consciously, some of it unconsciously, and that'll really guide my decisions and how I take care of myself. And you guys just don't appreciate how impactful it is to the larger community that you're served. And I gathered something here, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but you came to social a little bit later than Dr. Shah. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and do you think that, and are we in the first inning of social, the ninth inning? Is the game over? Where do you think we sit right now, given that he was early, you were a little bit later, you were focused on research? Where do you think we are in the game?
It's very interesting because I still think we're in the early innings of this baseball game of social media. However, I think the biggest inning was the first inning. I think we saw this tremendous astronomical interest in skincare. In part, it's multifactorial, but in part due to COVID, like lack of makeup, no one's going outside, everyone's just wearing masks, which had its own problems. And then I think we saw a little bit of a plateau, but I think it's settled into this space where now the current generation of people is not only comfortable, but preferring to go to these social media outlets for information. And so, again, I think it was this astronomical rise. We saw a decline and a plateau, but I think it's just going to be a constant growth from here, and it's here to stay. This is the new norm of accessing information.
No question. I think there's often a misconception when people look at the first inning of an industry that this is really an ecosystem that we're currently involved in, and we really don't know how that ecosystem is going to expand, but it is going to expand. So we may be in the first few innings of content creation on YouTube and on TikTok, but we really don't know where the ecosystem's going. But we do know, especially with ChatGPT and so many other things, where this is moving and how big it's going to get. And so there's no lateness coming. You could come today, you can come a year from now, but content, as we've talked about in the past, is incredibly important to the collective good of patients that we serve.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I even see this happening in real time because I'm actually a huge social media consumer myself, so I watch a lot of videos. So even outside of the derm industry, I see random people just kind of blow up overnight. They launch into stardom, they're gaining 1 million followers a month on social media, and maybe they're a food critic or something. So people are thinking, oh, well, the food space must be saturated, there's already so many cooks making videos, but somebody just comes in with a unique angle that is relatable and it just touches the consumer in a way that makes them want to consume that content. So I definitely don't think the space is saturated. I do think that the bar to entry was a little easier before because the expectations of what content looked like weren't as high, the quality was low, the audio was bad. I think you do need to step up the production quality a little bit more than maybe you had in the past, but I still think there's an opportunity to come in, disrupt, put good content out there, because quite honestly, not everyone's going to be relate. Not everyone's going to relate to us, right? We're the ones talking, right? And the people that are receiving the information need to relate a little bit to the people that are talking to some way. They need to see a little bit of themselves in you. So we have a large audience, but there's still 7 billion people on the planet that need this information.
You guys bring up a great point. You're both young, good-looking guys, very successful, well-educated, got this research appetite, and people are going to be watching this, clinicians, and they're going to be, you know what, I don't have those attributes. I don't have those characteristics, so maybe I won't do that. What would be your advice to these clinicians that are out there and feeling, you kind of touched on it there, that there's probably an audience for them, but what would you suggest to people that maybe just don't have all the things that you have or what they perceive that you have when they, to jump into this?
I think everyone needs to make content. Not everyone, but everyone that has an appetite for it needs to make it, because there's going to be somebody that looks like you, that sounds like you, that comes from a similar background as you, and the way that you speak is going to resonate with them, and they're going to trust you more than they trust us, and we need that. We need more people that are putting out ethical, honest information. It can't just be us two, it can't just be a handful of us. It needs to be more people that are relatable, and they can be beacons of that information. And not just that, what we find is interesting is that our content trickles into influencer content. So if we make a video on a particular subject, that content is being consumed by other spokespeople in some way, right? So you have large influencers that consume our content and then package it for their followers. which is a trickle-down effect of the information that we're creating. So the ripple is actually much bigger than what we can see directly from the people watching our video, because you have other people that are speaking on our behalf as well. So not only are you making content for the people that are watching your videos, but you're making content for other influencers to make content off of. So that's why I think more people need to do it.
And I think one of the most important things for people who are going to enter this, sorry, I'm like very numb. It's very distracting. I think for people,
it's distracting to look at you.
I think for people who are entering the space, I talked to some of the individuals, younger individuals who are looking to get into this. I say, why are you getting into this? Because I think it's important. A lot of people have something to say, but I think they need to have a lot of self-reflection. This is something I developed over the years of doing this with you, is like, why am I here? Like, what's important to me? What is it I'm trying to say? Because everyone does have unique perspective. Everyone does have unique characteristics that they bring to the table that's relatable and important to someone else. But I think you do have to learn a little bit about yourself to put something out there that's really, truly reflective of who you are. Because even if you look at the dermatology space, we are so different than some of the other dermatologists on social media, and that's a good thing. Like, you want the hypercritical space, the hypercritical individual, very professional. You want the more casual, relatable person, because they may both consume the same raw information from a data set, from a research perspective, but then they synthesize it and put it back out into the public sphere in a completely different way. And it again resonates with different people in the world. So not only there's a room for different personalities, there's room for unique perspectives, but I completely agree. I think everyone should be out there, but really be aware of who you are, and again, what you're trying to bring out of yourself to other people.
We don't have a ton of time, but I want to I'm sure people would have lots of questions if we had an open forum, which we don't, but how would that make a clinician better? How does it make you guys better? How does it make you more relatable? Your perspective on it?
I think that social media has improved my ability to be a clinician times 100. We get hundreds of thousands of comments, and I try to read most of them. And you just get feedback from so many people about how to communicate, what resonated, what was offensive, what really struck a chord, what really impacted them. And so you're basically like getting hundreds, thousands of patient interactions rapidly. Not only that, but like on social media, like they teach us stuff. Like, you know, they'll send me, like, I get emails from people that watch our YouTube videos, and they say, hey, like, I don't know if you saw this new study, but it's a really interesting study, and I think you should talk about it on YouTube. And so we're learning so much from the people that are consuming our content too. And we're learning so much about people from them too, like how people want to be treated, how people want to be communicated to. So I honestly feel like it's made me a better clinician. Now, the ability to balance time between social media and clinic is a different story, and I don't think either of us have fully figured out exactly how to balance the two worlds. But I truly believe that
you won't. But that's okay.
you can't do one without the other, in my opinion. Yeah. Like, you have to practice clinical medicine, because clinical medicine keeps you grounded in the content that you're making. But if you're going to make content also, like, you need to like reflect on both, like what the people are saying in the comments, and also what people are saying in the office. And I think that's what makes our content. We draw on our patient experiences, but we also draw on the experiences from the comments. So it's like, it's a two-way street, honestly.
I couldn't agree more. And I was thinking about what you're saying, and I have it in two ways. Not only, yes, we learned so much from the people who are watching us and the feedback they give, but also just the breadth of products in the over-the-counter. Like, people are going to the over-the-counter space for their first answers, and I feel like a lot of dermatologists and doctors can't relate to that, because even though we may know what the most effective thing is, we may be able to establish the diagnosis most correctly, if we can't speak to what these people are looking at, learning about, and seeing in real life on their daily life, people they don't listen. Like, if they can't relate to you, if you can't relate to them, there's a disconnect. And even though you might have the right answer, maybe you can't complete the steps to get to that right answer in a way that makes them feel like they've been heard, or that you really understand where the journey is that they've come through. Sorry, I just touched your leg. But the other thing too is...
You're numb. You can't do it.
Your whole body is numb now. It's like absorbed so much to the point where he's going to have an arrhythmia.
Yeah,
so
we're going to get a lot of
let's wrap it up.
All right. The last thing is though, so like, is the time commitment. Like, we these are longish videos on YouTube. We have podcasts. It's even longer, but you can't spend 20 minutes to an hour with each patient in the room. These are important, meaningful, thorough discussions, really exploring topics in depth. And I don't even think it's the healthcare American system. I don't know if the worldwide health system is set up in a way that you have that time as a professional and physician and scientist to like have a deep understanding like conversation with someone. And so the social media space gives us that opportunity to just enlighten people and bring them into our mindset and our thought process. And I think that is just invaluable.
Okay, last thing is somebody's out there, clinicians watching this saying, okay, I get it, I understand, I have to create content, I know it's for the greater good, it's gonna make me a better physician. What do I do first? What do I do right now? And what should I keep doing to make sure that I get that momentum and stay connected to it and stay committed to it?
Like Dr. Maxfield said, I think you have to know why you're doing this. Like, what is the reason? Are you trying to grow your practice? Are you trying to make more money? Or are you just trying to educate? Like, I think knowing what you're trying to accomplish helps to guide the content. But the biggest thing that I see people struggling with in terms of reaching out to me is they're just too afraid to post. They're too hypercritical of themselves. Like, oh, this isn't perfect, or oh, what if people think of me this way? And it's like, people will benefit from your content. If you're doing it for the right reasons, people will benefit from it. So just start posting and don't stop. Like, just keep putting that information out there. You're going to reach somebody one day that is going to benefit from this content. So just take the guardrails off. Like, loosen up a little bit. Like talk like you would talk to a friend. And so that's the thing, is just start posting.
Dr. Maxfield.
Dr. Shah, he's the brave one of the two of us. Just listening to Shah, I really do believe that he is a pioneer. He has moved this whole space forward so far, and it comes from that mindset. It's just like, just do it. I have something valuable for people to hear, and just put it out there. So for me, like I said, I kind of tiptoed in, but I think one of the most important things is that introspection, like you said. Know what you're going to say, know why. I'm all about the why. Why are you going to say this? How is this going to be helpful for people? And then also be gracious, not only for other people who are receiving your content, but to yourself as well, because you're going to say things that are wrong, with and without meaning to. We are all human, we're fallible, and I think being able to receive criticism is a very difficult thing, especially as a professional when you kind of come so far, but also being able to adjust and then give yourself grace when you make a mistake or when people come at you. Just be like, you know what, be genuine. I tried, I'm working, and present that in a very humble way. I've put in a lot of effort. We're doing this the best we can, but we're going to be growing with you as you grow with us.
I think that's a very good point, especially talking about grace. And I see dermatologists that get to the point where they spent 20 years going to school, or a very long time, 15, 20 years, to get to the place where they practice. They've really been the smartest person in the room, smartest person in the class to achieve that level of education. And they get to a point where now they're going to be criticized. And they're no longer in that bubble of perfection. And stepping out of that is very, very hard for clinicians. And they're already doing it anyway. What they don't realize is stepping into a business they know nothing about, that no one even gave them a single credit on, and they have really no education, but they're doing it anyway, so why not do it here? So I think that's great advice to really kind of just get out there and jump out. Gentlemen, it's been fantastic. Dr. Maxfield, appreciate it.
Thank
As
you.
always,
Thank
good to see
you.
you. Thanks, guys. You better go.